Now let's take a look at a bigger story. This week we saw Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, or as my iPhone insists on calling it, WWDC. Yeah, Apple manually overrode Siri to make it say that. We also saw more important stuff, including Microsoft Build. And at Microsoft Build, they talked a lot about Agentic AI, as we have here on the rundown. It seems that Microsoft is, contrary to Apple, leaning into agentic AI, leaning into AI generally, and making it central to their overall strategy. Satya Nadella talked about the agentic web, where AI takes a big role in software development. We also heard more about advances in GitHub Copilot, making it into a real programming partner for developers. New features for managing AI agents and giving them identities and security controls. And Microsoft, unsurprisingly, backed open standards like Agent2Agent or A to A and MCP, which is something that I've been talking about quite a lot lately. The event highlighted how AI is going to be a new tool for developers. It's going to challenge everything that people know about productivity and development. But of course, success on this depends on how people use these tools and whether they really trust them. So, Al, what's your overall take on Microsoft's messages coming out of Build?
I think the ambition to have an AI that is an assistant like a human. We've seen this through science fiction for a very long time of actual computers doing thinking tasks in service of a human, but offloading a lot of the routine tasks that we don't really want to have to think about. And this is the core of what Microsoft is saying they want to have. They want to have agentic AI that can take on particular actions, specific actions, and complete them autonomously, but do so in a way that is under human control at some point. We got some great coverage of Microsoft Build from the Futurum analyst group. Mitch Ashley, Nick Patience, and Keith Kirkpatrick, all good friends of ours, were at the event and have written up some really extensive coverage. One of the things I picked out of it was the use of copilots as a tool, as a pair programming tool. Now, I remember pair programming as being something that came out of Pivotal and Cloud Foundry kind of days when I was working with VMware. And the idea that having one person writing the code and another looking over their shoulder to see if they're making mistakes was interesting. But two humans doing that is kind of tough to do culturally. Having an AI assistant, an agent that's looking over my shoulder and saying, hey, you haven't checked that the input you got from the user is actually valid before you passed it on to this other service. That might be a really useful thing to have, particularly in real time, because fixing these things in real time is so much easier than having a security scan later on telling me that I made a mistake 4 hours ago. So I like this idea. Another thing that I also saw in there was Microsoft admitting that they don't have all the answers here and that they're going to engage with their developer community, their communities through GitHub, and are going to discover the answers to this, discover the ways in which people want to actually use AI and how AI agents can make individual developers more productive. And I think this is quite a change again, seeing this awareness that the knowledge is out there, the knowledge of what to do, the ideas of how to work out the right thing to do is actually out there amongst your end users, amongst the sort of massive number of intelligent people who are doing things with this. Of course, the challenge is getting through all of the millions of different opinions to get to something useful out of that, as always, when you're pulling from a large community. The other element in here is the thought that so much code is being written by AI. Is there still a role for a human developer? And I think pretty clearly there still is a role for a human developer. It's just that that role changes. And in the same way, we saw changes from when I first started programming. There were very few libraries to do complicated things because computers couldn't do quite so complicated things. And over time, better and more libraries turn up better development environments, and shifting those development environments to allow us to do more sort of the vibe coding idea of describing what you want to achieve. Now, you probably don't go all in vibe coding because you still want some ability to work deeply, have deep knowledge of the programming language, the environment you're working on. but melding some of those ideas that there are a whole lot of tasks that are repetitive and very samey in software development, and minimizing those so we can allow humans to do the things they're good at, which is innovating, coming up with new ideas that aren't based on prior art. Right? Automate everything that's based on prior art. And that's exactly what generative AI is good at, but allow a human to innovate and build new things. Stephen, are you building new things at the moment with the help of AI to do the boring stuff?
Sure. And I think that this is one of the areas that is maybe a little confusing of the world that we live in. Um, I, it's easy to be angry about AI. It's easy to be frustrated with AI simply because I feel like so many people are still in the honeymoon phase of this thing is amazing. It does anything. Well, it doesn't. It really, really doesn't. For example, if you ask ChatGPT 4.0 about to compare and contrast agent to agent protocol and MCP, it will make up a load of, let's say, horse pucky about what these things mean, including erroneous definitions of both of these protocols, because it doesn't have that information. It doesn't know what these things are because they're that new. That being said, OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, etc., have all embraced these standards. Google announced agent to agent protocol recently, and Anthropic has put MCP out there as an open standard for ways that agents can integrate with each other. The contrast between sort of this I'm going to ask ChatGPT stuff and it's going to make up an answer and where the industry is headed, it could not be more stark. And that's good for many reasons, not the least of which because most real AI applications are not going to be of the burn down the rainforest and light up the nuclear reactor variety. They're going to be a lot more of the duct tape that holds things together variety. And so, to answer your question in a long winded way, yes, I'm using AI all the time as duct tape, essentially. If you, for example, need to extract data from a file, it is an LLM is actually a very good way to build a standard JSON structure based on the contents of a variety of unstructured files. You know, feed it, for example, a whole bunch of invoices, and it will give you a beautiful formatted JSON list of the content of those invoices. And in most cases, it's going to be pretty accurate as long as you've used the proper prompt. Well, that's what models and agents are going to give us. Essentially, we're going to have little AI components that are able to do little cool things. When you strap these things together using protocols like agent to agent or using model context protocol, which are not mutually exclusive competitive, by the way, they certainly can and will augment each other in various ways. What we're going to end up with is useful tools that do useful things and don't require yet another agent that is, maybe or maybe not sentient. So that I think is the direction that the industry is headed in. We talked earlier about IBM with announcing at Think a whole range of AI agents that do various tiny tasks in a useful way. That's the kind of stuff that I'm excited about from Microsoft as well. I mean, Microsoft obviously is one of the major computing, personal computing platform vendors, but of course they're also one of the most important cloud uh, companies out there, and of course they also have a huge, huge group of developers that support and rely on their tools, everything from GitHub to their IDEs and Copilot. So having agents built into that to help out in various ways, and having things like GitHub embrace MCP allows us to see a future where we're going to see just a blossoming of really cool little AI widgets that do neat things and all work together. And that's sort of the message that I got from this. And I have to agree with you, Alistair. I love the fact that Microsoft is coming here and saying, look, we are not exactly sure, but we're pretty sure there's a revolution in here. Let's work together and find it.